Welcome to the Clonestar podcast and our new series, The Women of Strange New Worlds. I'm your host, Jody Pickens, and in this series, we're beaming a spotlight onto the women who shape the Enterprise's missions and embody the very best of Starfleet. They're scientists and tacticians, healers and warriors, mentors and mavericks, and each brings her own brand of brilliance to the bridge. Over the coming episodes, we'll explore the journeys, the stories that define them, and the impact they've had on the Star Trek universe and beyond. Today, we're stepping onto the bridge with Commander Una Chin Riley, Starfleet's #1, calm under fire, precise in command, fiercely loyal, and carrying a secret that could have ended her career before it began. From the groundbreaking feminist vision of Majel Barrett in The Cage to Rebecca Romijn's layered portrayal of an Illyrian officer navigating Federation prejudice, Una's journey is one of leadership, identity, and the quiet power of those who lead from the second seat. We'll dive into her defining episodes and examine how her story challenges Starfleet's ideals, mirrors real-world struggles, and cements her as one of the most compelling officers in modern Trek. This is more of a character study. It's a look at what it truly means to serve, to lead, and to belong, even when the rules say you shouldn't be here at all. Joining me today are Tilly and Susan Bridges, a powerhouse writing team whose work spans television, comics, and games. Partners in both life and storytelling, they've brought their sharp wit, heartfelt character work, and inclusive vision to projects across multiple beloved franchises. In the Star Trek universe, they've consulted on Star Trek Prodigy, contributed to Star Trek Adventures, and are the creative force behind the upcoming Star Trek Voyager Homecoming comic series, which continues the crew's journey after the return to Earth. Beyond Trek, they've written for the hit animated series Monster High, blending humor, wit, and I lost my place, but here we go. Humor, wit, and adventure, which is a heart for a whole new generation of fans. Tilly also writes Tilly's Trans Tuesdays, a celebrated weekly essay series exploring gender, identity, and the trans experience, offering personal insight and fostering community connection. Whether expanding established universes or building new ones, Tilly and Susan's work is defined by a love of character-driven storytelling and a belief in the power of hope. Welcome to you both.
Thank you. That was like the most kind, wonderful intro we've ever had.
You follow us around and
We'll say that to everybody we meet. That's awesome. So good.
I would be happy to, more than happy to, truly. But I do. I thank you for being here. I am excited about your upcoming comic series, of course. That's exciting about the Voyager thing, but we'll talk more about that later.
Okay.
Today we're going to talk about Una. And, just to kind of get us started, I wanted to ask, when you think of Una Chin Riley, what's the first word or image that comes to mind?
I think of Majel Barrett, honestly.
Yeah.
The original. Because it was so shocking at the time.
Yeah. And that pilot never actually aired, did it?
Well, no, but they used parts of it in TOS later.
Right.
And then you get to meet her. Yeah. But she was so cool and confident and not how you would see a woman on the bridge
in the 60s.
In the 60s.
But for me, I think when I think about her, the first thing that pops into my mind is strength. And not physically, even though she does have impressive physical strength, but just the strength of character that she has to go through what she's been through. And she does have this sort of confidence. She seems really hard to rattle, and I love that.
But from my perspective, it's just because I'm a giant Majel Barrett fan girl. I'm so into her every way.
She was a force in her own right. I mean, outside of the series, she, carried a lot on her shoulders for Trek and beyond, right?
So much. So it was so hard for women throughout Star Trek. I mean, there could be a whole other show just on that.
Yeah. We may do that at some point. So yes, I agree wholeheartedly. Well, speaking of Majel Barrett and kind of the origins of Una as a character, what do you take from that original portrayal, considering the era and the culture it was, portrayed during?
I think from that original pilot that she's in, we don't actually learn a whole lot about her, like as a person, right? She's sort of an enigma, a mystery. She doesn't even have a name. She's just number one.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, she laid the groundwork for it, but it was really when Strange New Worlds started and they gave her a name and a whole personality outside of that. And it was a little jarring at first. You're like, wait a minute, her name's Una Chin Riley? What? But and then she said Illyrian, what? Because she, from that original pilot, you just assume she's a human lady. And
Right.
so it's almost like she's just in that original pilot, Majel's version is just the seed of that would blossom, into this fully realized character later on.
It definitely is, but also like I constantly think about how like people don't realize how incredibly edgy Star Trek was at the time. Like people
even for all its problems,
forget.
It was still
And like right now, we're actually going back and watching all the original Doctor Who and the way women acted in those episodes, and then you contrast that to this portrayal, and it is stark.
Right? I mean,
it is. You never see a woman acting like this.
Well, that's the strange thing, though,
right.
too, is because when you look at the original series, outside of the original pilot with Majel as number one, the representation for women is not great. Uhura's wonderful, but she never gets to do quite enough. And then there's still women serving coffee on the bridge, and a woman can't be captain, Kirk actually says. And so it's progressive and regressive at the same time. The original is such a weird mixed bag.
That is.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Culture and society and the era certainly is felt in that portrayal by Majel. But I do wonder, do you see there's a quiet fortitude about, I think, the way she portrays Una, but I also think we see that from Rebecca in the character. Don't you think? And I think that carries through. So maybe there's a little echo there of that original portrayal. What do you think about when Una was introduced during Discovery? Kind of in the modern Trek area. This is when we're, getting to meet her. Did you get that feeling of like this was an expanded character? Like obviously we got her name and all of those things we didn't know about her, but did you find that intrigue instantly when we saw her in Discovery?
I don't know about you, but I don't think that I did. At first, she felt a bit like an enigma to me, a little bit like, oh, we're pretending this is the same character, but it feels like it's not really the same character. It was almost like a new character sort of grafted into an old one. And that was, they couldn't really fully develop her on that show. She wasn't a main cast member. And so I think she absolutely feels like the same character now. But at first, I think I felt a little bit like, okay, we'll see where this goes.
I just remember being really excited.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to know everything about her immediately. What is going on now? But I like that. I also feel the seed of her being very much like, she doesn't necessarily say what she's feeling all the time, but she will tell you what she feels if she thinks it's important.
Right.
And I feel like also there's a little bit, I think originally they were saying like the original dynamic between Pike and number one was supposed to kind of be like the Kirk Spock dynamic. And I kind of feel that where like I felt like number one was the kind of character that'd be like, call you out. If she knows you, she's like, hey, did you know you're doing the same thing you always do? Like, not like in a mean way, but I'm just letting you know.
Right.
It's interesting that you mentioned like a Kirk Spock dynamic, because I feel almost with her and Pike, it's a little bit flipped. Like Pike feels more like let's give them another chance or whatever. And Una to me feels like, I will fuck you up if I need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with her. She will mess you up.
True.
If she feels it is the right thing to do.
And as time goes on, you realize, oh, she's incredibly strong.
Yes.
Like Spock.
And,
right?
So
it is, I do think, like, I agree with you. I think, like, there was a sense of trust between her and Pike that we saw in Discovery, but we didn't learn a lot about her as an individual yet. But it was enough to make you intrigued. Like you did want to learn more about her and know where her story was going to go and take us. So yeah, that's good. So knowing that we got that hint of her in Discovery, and then we move into Strange New Worlds, they definitely expanded the character, maybe a little bit slower than we all would have liked, but we definitely got there. But do you think, you know, how would you describe her now that she's in Strange New Worlds as a leader? If you could put some like definition on that.
As a leader, I feel like she's unflappable. Like you can't rattle her. Like she's not that everything's easy for her, but she's always like, okay, well, this is awful or tough, and now I'm going to figure out how to fix it. And, you know, I feel like she's got this sort of drive that nothing feels insurmountable to her. And so, I don't know. So I think like if she was my commanding officer, that would impart such a sense of relief and confidence in me that I feel like no matter what we're going to face, she can figure it out. She'll think of something.
But also I think she has that unshakable trust in the crew to figure it out too. Which
she empowers them. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, you're all Starfleet. You're all super geniuses. Figure it out.
Yeah.
I think she'd just be like, okay, fine. We can't do it this way. Great. Let's go. That's our job. That's your job.
Yeah.
That's what you're all here for.
Yeah, I feel she definitely has like that parameters. There's that structure of Starfleet, and she will use that because everybody's there for a reason, like you said. And you know, that quiet fortitude comes across, but I think she definitely is stronger and more forward about putting people in their place when they need to be.
Yeah.
And,
She will let you know what she thinks. If she needs to. She's like, well, she's not going to sugarcoat things. She will just tell you.
Right. And it won't even be in a mean way.
Right.
No.
It'll just be like, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's direct and strong and I think in her leadership style, but I think she definitely defines it. And I mean, her loyalty, I don't think we can question that at all. She seems completely loyal to everybody on that bridge.
Yeah. And like compared to most of them, she might even be like more loyal to Starfleet and the Federation than the average Starfleet officer because she believes so deeply in what they stand for. So yeah.
I think that's a good point you make because obviously with her Illyrian background or, you know, her heritage that, and that being kind of a forbidden thing with the Federation, she knows she's kind of on borrowed time with them from the get-go and is trying to keep that big secret from them and yet believes so emphatically in what the Federation is doing and who they are. So yeah, it's a powerful kind of give and take with her that she's put herself in that position.
Yeah.
Do you think she shows some vulnerability behind the command mask, or is she all business in that?
I think she does, just not usually in front of the subordinates. You know, she doesn't want to let them see her waver because they need her support, her confidence, her faith, and her belief in them. So I think she has that sort of commander, captain-y sort of commanding officer thing where it's like, you know, you got to be strong for the crew. And that doesn't mean you don't feel things, but you feel your things in private or with your captain, you know, who doesn't need you to be his leader. He's yours. And so, I think she tries to keep more of that vulnerability private, but she definitely has it.
Yeah, I think she is like a very loyal sort of person, and she would be a loyal friend as well. And I think, she carefully gauges when to show emotion.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean she doesn't have them, and she does show them I mean, sure, she's going to show she's irritated if something's going wrong. That's pretty normal. But yeah, I think she kind of checks the whole situation out before deciding whether or not she's going to let loose with something.
Well, yeah, that was part of what was so one of the many things that was so impactful, I think, about Ad Astra per Aspera is that you see her, like when she's on the stand talking about what her life was like. That's more vulnerable and emotional than we usually see her, you know, just going through that. And so she had to let that out in front of people. And you could see how difficult that was for her. And so it really deepened her character a lot in that way.
Yeah. I think she does hold her cards close, right? She does,
Yep.
but she's not afraid to put them down when the moment calls for it. And she is very capable of the vulnerability when it's needed, because it can be powerful, especially coming from her, can't it? Yeah.
Oh, and also with like subordinates, if they need the emotional support, she can give it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is that kind of maybe mothering or sister or aunt-like quality that she brings to the character to share, with the subordinates when needed, or even with Pike as a friend. I think she's a complex character when she needs to be for most of the time, but she can open up, and I like that about her a lot.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about her character evolution in Strange New Worlds. And I've got to start with Ghost of Illyria. That was in season 1. And I was wondering how you feel about how that episode maybe reframed Una's identity.
Yeah, it was a surprise at first, right? Because up to that point, you still also think she's a human lady, just like you thought Majel was. And so it was a real shock at first, but then I was like, I really dig this. You're doing something with her that is completely unexpected, something nobody saw coming, and you're deepening her in such an interesting way. So I was all into it once I got, the shock definitely hit me. I'm like, what? But it was a good shock. I really liked it.
I have nothing more to add.
Full agreement.
Full agreement.
We'll take that. What do you suppose, from a writer's standpoint or a character development standpoint, was the significance of making her Illyrian?
Well, it made her stand out in the ways that we saw later. She's different than the rest of them, right? It sets her apart, even though she doesn't look different from the rest of them. And that allows you to tell some really powerful allegorical stories, which is exactly what they did. So I'm thinking that was probably the intent from the start. I mean, they're all writing on Star Trek. They know the history with genetically modified people in the world. And so I feel like that was the intent. They were like, if we do this with her, we can tell some really powerful stories about the present state of our world. And that's what sci-fi does best, right? It can open up windows into what we're living through now in ways that you don't expect. So I really like that.
Yeah, creating a character to explore marginalization.
Yeah, and doing that through a cisgender white woman who is very, I guess, like beautiful in the Hollywood way, right? The person the kind of Rebecca Romijn is gorgeous, and she's the kind of like Hollywood star that you would see like in movies, and that's why that's not the only reason she's had such a great long career. But so I think doing that rather than making her character or having her played by somebody who is marginalized in our society, I think that's kind of the genius of it, because you don't expect it. And for all of the people who need that message, to understand what it's like to be the other, all those, cisgender white people who are watching that, it gets them thinking about it in the ways that if the character were played by an actor from a marginalized community, that they might not. So I think that's kind of like a little bit of a genius thing to do.
Yeah, I think also like the character being at the top of her field, at the very best of Starfleet, pretty much, So I think also playing with that model minority kind of thing a little bit.
Sure.
Because she would have had to be very good and very careful to make it as far as she has.
Right. It's interesting because I feel like we get a lot of understanding of how she kind of internalizes the stigma and guilt that she's dealing with, right? From her heritage. But I also think there's power in seeing her as, she's being seen and portrayed as but in reality, she knows she's this other. And I think, like you said, it spoke to a lot of people. Do you feel like this was a turning point for us as viewers to understand her as a character?
Oh, absolutely. Because again, like back in season 1, especially, we still didn't know that much about her, right? And this is like, this is Una. This is who she is. This is what you didn't know about her, but has always been there. And so, yeah, that was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she would have had to be careful in sharing any personal details about her life, or she would have had to probably lie about where she was from and her family and things like that.
Do you think it really explains a lot about how she interacts with the crew then, as we talked about, right?
I mean, yeah, part of the reason that she, has maybe keeps a little bit of distance when she needs to, or plays those cards close to her chest, is because she had so much she couldn't reveal without putting herself in danger. So I think that those two things sort of wrapped up in each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you feel like understanding and learning about her Illyrian heritage and the secrets that she was keeping changed your perception of her as a character?
Oh, for me, absolutely, because I could instantly identify with her in ways that I couldn't before, right? Because that's something that every person from a marginalized community can identify with in their own ways. So for me, yeah, it suddenly made her even more important to me than she was before.
And it also shows her intense dedication to Starfleet, because she could have done almost anything else probably, right? Like, she didn't have to do this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But she wants to do this more than anything, and she will go to great lengths to stay in Starfleet because she believes in it so much.
Yeah, I always think back to the episode, This Old Scientist, the crossover with Lower Decks, which was unbelievably fun. But when Boimler has such a hard time speaking to her because he's so awestruck by her, and we kind of get that tidbit of, that she was kind of like the face of Starfleet and
the literal poster child.
Literal poster child. And I think that's such a powerful thing to think about, in knowing that she risked so much to join the Federation and Starfleet and be a part of that, and fought for it, that she becomes then the poster child eventually for the organization. I just think it's powerful.
It is, yeah.
We see, like you mentioned, we see a lot of parallels then between her secrecy and real world experiences of hiding identity. And it definitely talks, to marginalized people, from all factors. But is this something I think we see a lot more of in modern Trek, quote unquote, with this new era of Trek? How risky is that for a show to play that?
It shouldn't be risky, but it is, especially when you look at the industry now and the sort of contraction that it's going through, not just in terms of business and how many shows or movies are being made, but the way that they're sort of pulling back from inclusion a little bit. It's really hard. And I love Star Trek that it has always gotten, I think, like, it's always a product of its time. And but there are people who believe in it and are the people that are making the show are trying to live up to the show's own ideals. And I think with every iteration, it's gotten closer. But it is also hard. Like, Una is such a great allegory for the trans community. And yet it's really hard, especially as a trans person, when there have only been 2 actual trans people on Star Trek, and only one was a main character, right? When Gray was just recurring, we have Adira, and that's it.
Right.
And so it's hard. It's great that you can tell these stories with Una, especially like Ad Astra per Aspera, which I did a 3-essay series about how much it's about the intentional allegory of being trans in this world. But it also is hard to never actually see your own experience reflected, right? There have been no trans women on Star Trek, or, you've never seen a trans woman character. Dax was the closest we had,
Right.
And she was definitely not actually trans. So it's hard. It's a give and take. Like, they're doing I think the most that they can, but it is also not still quite enough, and that's not all their fault. It's just society, and they have to deal with executives and production companies, and it's hard. It's just a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's no story that's more of the moment than about how trans people are being treated. I mean, even in the last week or so, we're seeing trans soldiers who were planning retirements having their retirements canceled, which is like direct parallel, right?
Yeah, after like 15 years.
There is no more direct parallel.
Well, and that's wild because Ad Astra Per Aspera came out 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just gotten worse for trans people since then.
Right. It's predictive, right?
Yeah.
But also, as you know, we try to tell stories, queer stories, and every decision maker, the higher up you go, is more conservative. So anytime you hear someone say liberal Hollywood, you can just immediately dismiss whatever they say because they have no idea what they're talking about in the slightest.
Like the creatives are generally very liberal, but they're not the ones making the final decisions.
Right.
Right?
Even when
above them.
Right. And even times when we've worked on something, we are trying to do a queer story. The showrunner absolutely supports it, and then it goes up the ladder and it just gets chipped away. And this happens constantly because they're more concerned about making money, not offending people. And as it becomes more popular to villainize trans people, they want to go with what's popular.
Right. Well, that's also the power of allegory, right? Because they might not even know it's in there. That's what's so good about it. Like Twilight Zone did that all the time, right? Twilight Zone existed because Rod Serling wanted to tell a story about Emmett Till, I believe, and the executives wouldn't let him. And he's like, well, then I'm going to allegorically tell all these stories that you won't let me tell. And so that's what's so beautiful about it. And Star Trek does that too. It's done that since the original series, right? They've had the racial allegories were baked into that show. And so
it's often the only way to get those stories past the decision makers.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely true. I do think it's interesting you brought up because of the original series being so, coded with the civil rights movement and racism and
absolutely
and people of color on our screens. I mean, come on. And so we're experiencing that, but just adding more people to that mix that, we're not able to get those stories and those actors and those people to portray them without it being, like you said, allegorical or maybe not a forefront character, that they're, a secondary character.
Right.
I think it's powerful, and I'm not sure that we could have that without this new era of Trek, right? That we kind of needed this turn, even though it's slight and even though it still faces the hurdles of getting through the red tape and hurdles and overcoming all of that. But I do like that Trek still tries to, in some way, push that envelope and continue to be that mirror reflecting. Yeah. But I do think Una is, like you said, she's a great character and so layered, and we need more of that, if anything, at the very least. So you talked a little bit about the episode Ad Astra Per Aspera from season 2, which I don't know how it doesn't go down as like one of the monumental core episodes of Trek, in our wonderful Trek history. But if just in an overarching way, what stood out for you from this courtroom drama with Una?
In the grand tradition of courtroom dramas for Star Trek. They're great, right?
They are.
Yes.
They're really great. But I mean, what stood out for me was all of the very direct and intentional parallels to what trans people are going through. And I mean, like, I know that there are people who are going to be like, come on, was that intentional? Were they really talking about trans people? And but they were, because at the beginning, Una's wearing a brace, and the brace strap is the trans flag, like literally the trans flag. And so it's very clear, like it speaks to, I think, what so many marginalized communities go through, because we all have more in common than not. But there's also parts of it that are very, very specifically trans, about you can't go to see a doctor when you're injured, or they're going to find out the truth about who you are. And, things like that. So it was, to me, it was the first time I felt truly seen by a Star Trek episode. And there, again, as far as we know, there are no trans people in it or involved in making it, which is a problem of its own kind. But I'm so glad that it exists and that it is what it is, because it meant the world to me. I even have a little necklace right here. Has a star on it. And it says Ad Astra Per Aspera on the side.
Outstanding.
You can't see it on this, but it's there.
That's all right.
But the medical parallel is really good, because we were just talking about the trans healthcare survey and
on our podcast,
on your podcast, and about how so many trans people either can't afford medical care or they avoid medical care, not only because of financial reasons, but also because they're afraid of how they'll be treated.
Right.
Or they'll be denied care. And they are sometimes
based on who they are.
Based on who they are.
Yeah.
And so it's a very clear parallel.
Yeah. I don't know how it wasn't. It was, intentional on their part. So, but
yeah,
I think it's important. And I think that's an important part that, yes, was it a wonderful Trek courtroom drama that we saw?
It was also that, yes.
Right. And it was so much so that, but at the same time, there's such a bigger meaning to that episode. And
yeah. And I even love it outside of all of the inherent transness of it. I love it for where it gets to with Una, where she's like, I believe we can be better, right? That's what all of Star Trek is about. We can be better if we choose to be. And I love that so much. I just gave myself goosebumps. It's so good. It's so Star Trek. And it's the heart of everything Star Trek is,
Absolutely.
I also love Pike fighting for her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that, the lengths that he goes to Illyria, that the entire atmosphere is toxic to him, that he cannot survive there. And he just does it for her.
Right.
Because he believes in her and that she's worth it.
Well, he also does that great thing where he's like, you know what? I was wrong about Illyrians. And that's a really like a thing that you're not going to see a whole lot of like cis people do, is admit that they were wrong about trans people because maybe they believe the propaganda because they didn't know better, and they have a hard time admitting that. And so to me, that was really powerful. And it spoke a lot to his character, who is like, that's something you want in a captain, right? You can admit when you are wrong, especially if it's in favor of helping your crew, the people you care about, the people you command. You have to have that sort of brutal honesty with yourself and be like, listen, I made a mistake. I screwed that up. And so that was really powerful to me because I don't see enough cis people doing that with trans issues, especially. So I was like, oh, Pike, you're so aspirational.
It's true, though, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
I think that was such a great part, too, of that episode is that the found family she has in that crew of the Enterprise, I mean, they rallied without even hesitation and willing to risk their own careers to testify on her behalf. So, yeah.
That she inspires such loyalty.
Right? That's really it. That
yeah.
I mean, she is inspiring to these people, and and critical to the way that crew is functioning. So powerful. So let's talk about Neera, her lawyer.
Yes.
What does she represent in this particular story?
Well, I feel like she has this great line about how
Neera's Illyrian.
She is Illyrian, about how some Illyrians, I mean, I think it's actually Una who says some Illyrians can pass, right? Quote unquote pass. People might think we're cisgender and that we let them believe that. And so Neera's got this, she has a moment with Una where she's like, not all of us can do that, right? And so it's like...
And she's jaded.
Right.
She's like, why would you even try to be with these people who don't even think of you as, a person?
Right.
And I think that's a really important perspective. It's like...
Well, it is, because it shows you what that kind of othering and oppression does to people, right? Oh. Because it's like, how you're asking me to have sympathy for the people that are oppressing me and my people, and where's their sympathy for us, And I love the way that she has that arc through that episode where she comes around, just saying like, you know what? Maybe they're not great towards us, but we can try to help them, push them to be better. And each tiny little step is a little bit further along the path to making things better for those who come after us.
Yeah, I think it's important to be clear. Everything was not fixed.
No.
It was a very small step. And that's how Starfleet is. One small step.
That's how the world is. Yeah. Oh, and it's
going forward, trying to be better.
Right.
It's not going to be perfect right away. Well, it's going to take a lot of work.
It gives extra context to those Deep Space Nine episodes that aired 30 years ago, but take place 100 years in the future. with Bashir being genetically
Julian.
engineered, and
Right.
the three other genetically engineered people that are still ostracized. And so you see, like, even 100 years later, it hasn't been fixed. And isn't that depressing?
Yeah.
Yes, it is actually.
Yeah.
Yes, no lies. Did Nira, by the end of that episode or the end of that trial in that episode, come around to Una's perspective on being included in that world of Starfleet?
I don't think she did. I think she's still a little wary about it. She's not sure that this is the right thing, but she does see that it can help and it could make things better in the future. So she's willing to take that step.
I think she felt like it was impossible to win. And then when it wasn't, I think she was like, okay, they did listen this one time. Maybe there's hope for this after all. She's not going to go join Starfleet, but
right.
She knew it was important to Una, and so she tried.
Yeah, and like in my write-up on this episode, I think at the end I said the greatest fiction in this entire episode about spaceships and people living in the future with aliens is that the judge listened and said, "You're right, we shouldn't discriminate." I'm like, that shouldn't feel so fictional, but gosh, it does.
Right now, yeah.
And continues to, unfortunately, right? Like that's where we see ourselves right now. What made this courtroom drama that we so love feel like classic Trek storytelling?
Oh, because they've done those forever. I mean, like even in the original series, they had great courtroom episodes, and then like what are some the Measure of a Man on Next Generation was just so good, and even that one, the Drumhead was kind of courtroomish, and that was about the same thing, discrimination, and it's just this long history that Trek has had of saying, "Hey, let's make a weird legal drama episode and we'll comment on society through it." But I love that because Star Trek is so many different things. It's so many different genres and styles. And so there's a long tradition of those.
I like that they did a lot of research on the TOS, like dress uniform, weird pins and patches. And they're like, all right.
And their weird little medals.
Yeah. And their weird medals. Like, that was pretty fun.
Well, we love that as Trek fans, don't we? That all those details and things that they bring and give us in these episodes. I mean, we question everything from what pen they're using to what's on the uniform. So I love that. I like too that Trek does these courtroom dramas so well. I mean, they are telling obviously a story up front, also maybe a secondary intent with the stories, but they feel relatable, these courtroom dramas. Like we feel like we're a part of what's happening there. And I think Trek does that unusually well compared to other shows.
Yeah, they never feel out of place. You're like, no, this makes sense. It totally fits within the world.
Here we are, we're in outer space on some starship doing whatever, and now we're having a courtroom drama, and it feels completely natural to us. I love that.
Yeah.
Una's speech during the trial, fairly epic moment, I think, for the character. Rebecca Romijn delivered it. I don't know how it could have been delivered by anyone else, honestly. But did it impact your view of Starfleet values?
A little, because, Starfleet is held up to this ideal and the Federation of this ideal of inclusion. And so it makes you a little bit sad that you're like, even still this far in the future, we haven't gotten over this, right? It still exists in some ways. But then that also, you don't want them to be perfect because nobody's actually perfect, right? We're all human. And so, of course, weird new prejudices will pop up in the future that we don't have these days because we don't know these alien people. So it makes perfect logical sense, but it also makes you a little disappointed that they're not better. But then you believe the same thing Una says, that they can be better if they choose to be. And choosing to be better, that's the heart of the whole thing. And so you can't be mad about it. That's what it's all about, right? Becoming better than you were, becoming the person you hope you are.
I mean, there's plenty of Star Trek where people make a lot of mistakes. And, it's about owning up to that.
Yeah, well, it's not just the characters either. Sometimes some episodes have made some very big mistakes. There are racist episodes, there are sexist episodes. Deep Space Nine is a terribly transphobic episode, and there are the like homophobic episodes. And so it's a great parallel because you don't want to see that in your Trek either, right? But
Right.
if they're trying to be better, you're going to make those mistakes. Biases and prejudices will be revealed, and then you have to acknowledge those and work to fix them. And I feel like Starfleet and Trek are doing that sort of at the same time, hopefully. So they're kind of parallel each other.
Yeah. I feel from my perspective, I always want Starfleet to be just the poster child of the ideal, right? We want them to just be perfect. But I think I like what Star Trek has done, and that is it shows here's this hope of being this greater good, this, that we can be better and hopeful and all these good things, but it still has a flaw. There are flaws and things to learn from and to grow from and evolve. And I think this piece in particular, this episode, this Ad Astra per Aspera, I think it influences Starfleet and puts them on another path, to change, which I hope that we see that, and we kind of see that set up from the evolution of Trek as a universe, right? Like they needed to do this at this point in time, or we wouldn't have been able to continue on.
Right.
Maybe some of that. So, just another great episode. We'll make sure to this week link to your coverage of this episode, because I think it's important reading for everyone who's a fan of it, and I don't know anybody who isn't, so there's that.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
No, I'm happy to. I think Una also had some other key moments that were important or valuable to her as a character, and the episode Among the Lotus Eaters, where she takes command of the ship, but it's under memory loss. Like she and the rest of the crew aren't aware. And I wonder what you feel that it revealed about her instincts as an officer and member of Starfleet and caretaker for the crew in that moment.
Yeah, I think it shows that a little bit of what she has for the crew, what she gives to them, is innate, right? It's just who she is as a person. But I also feel like so much of who we are as a person is wrapped up in our memories and our lives. And so when you take that away, you're not really the same person. And so it's not like a whole complete Una, but it shows you a little bit of the core, I think, that is in there, that the foundation that's underneath who she really is.
Yeah, I think from what I remember, it's been a while, she was still very much like, okay, what do we have that can help us? Like, even though she's suffering from this memory loss, she's like, there's still resources. I still have these things. And that's a very logical thing for her to do.
Still approaches the problem the same way.
The same way she would.
Yeah.
Thing. And I think that was a good thing to see. Just be like, we have computers, we have records. Let's just look it up.
Right. I do think that's something core to her character. And, is it because she's Illyrian? Maybe, but she very much so in any situation, even under memory loss in that episode, gets to like, let's just break this down and get to where can we start? And, where can we make? And I think we don't see that always. We see characters that they're, maybe they're head of engineering and they approach things completely from that perspective. Whereas I think Una is, all right, what's in this moment, what's going to get us started and make the most impact.
Yeah, she's sort of like you see that she's got like this natural leadership quality. Like she doesn't necessarily want to be a leader, but she just falls into that category because of the way she approaches things and the way she supports others. She's a natural born leader.
I mean, she is in command. But I think, being a first officer means being comfortable with stepping forward and stepping back and being able to play both sides I think that's really, and that's important in any leadership role, I think. Knowing when to step back and let your people do what they need to do.
Oh, right.
And then
step out of their way.
Right. Yeah. Or step forward and inspire them and tell them what needs to be done, give that leadership when needed.
I mean, we have seen a number of characters who are in command who aren't good leaders in Trek, right? I mean, they do exist, even though most of our favorites aren't that type. But
yeah. Well, it's like even when like you were just saying, like you want Starfleet to be aspirational, we want them to be perfect. But like throughout every Star Trek show, like the Badmiral is a trope, right? Like some of these admirals are so bad at their job, and
I got a lot of that.
There's a lot of bad. Yes. So it's like, it's always been there. And so
you have to wonder what's happening between the captain and the admiral.
I know, right? It does make you question.
Where a bunch of them go bad.
Oh, no.
They need another Starfleet Academy experience to get them from captain up to that admiral rank.
Yeah, you have to go back to school for 4 years.
Yeah.
That's a whole other series we just, proposed right there. I love it. What about Una's relationship with Pike? What does that kind of tell us about her inner world in the way they interact together?
I think what I get from it most is that her beliefs are so core to who she is that even though he outranks her and he's her commanding officer, she's going to call him on all his shit, right? Because that's her job, but also because it's what she believes is the right thing to do. And so I feel like even if Pike wasn't such a great, warm, welcoming, friendly character, I feel like no matter who her commanding officer was, she'd give them the same shit if she felt they deserved it, right? Because she believes that's the thing to do. And so I think that's what it shows us about her so much, is how much she believes in doing what is right, regardless of if that means inspiring your subordinates or saying, hey, Captain, that was not good.
I feel like she's a very quote the rule book kind of person. Like she'll be like, just so you know.
Oh yeah.
And just making sure, like, do you really want to do this, Captain? Because just gonna flag that for you. And then if Pike's like, yeah, okay, I said my piece.
Right. I do think he tends to at times, react like this. I don't care what Starfleet says, we're doing this, and I'm leading this, so you don't have to come along. But if you want to, this is what we're going to do. And I do feel like you're right that she does come up and say, well, let's just be clear. This is what Starfleet Command has said, and this is what the rules say. But yeah, I think just that subtle reminder of that she believes strongly enough in Starfleet, just even in those moments where she's going to be right by his side going rogue.
Yeah,
that she still's going to remind him of the rules.
But just want to be sure you know what you're doing, buddy.
Yeah, right. He needs that, I think, quite a bit, actually. I like Dr. Una McCormack wrote Asylum, which is the Strange New Worlds tie-in novel, and it focuses a lot about Una and Pike's relationship and forming that. And so if our listeners are interested in learning more about them, that's a great read for that. I also want to talk a little bit about the kind of mentorship or maybe sister role there is between Una and La'an, because they're very both individually strong characters, but there's definitely a connection with the two of them.
Yeah, well, we learned that in Ad Astra per Aspera that Una saved her. I don't know if that was revealed before then or not, but yeah, so La'an definitely has this sort of, I guess she really looks up to her, right? She's like, you didn't just save me, but you inspire me. I want to be, the kind of officer you are. And so, and La'an is her own little mix of, internal contradictions and difficulties that she struggles with. So, there's a definite sort of mentor-mentee relationship between the two of them. But it is more than that. It's not just professional, right? You can tell there's like this bond that they have that maybe is kind of sisterly. So,
I mean, La'an considers her a friend. And
yes.
I think also, and La'an was really mad about
that she wasn't told.
That Una didn't tell her about her background.
Right.
And because they're friends, I guess she felt betrayed by that.
Right.
And especially considering La'an's background on top of it.
Well, yeah, true.
Yeah.
But also, like in that episode, it was used, in a brilliant way to say, like, it's not, that was a moment for La'an to make her own mistake, because it's not up to you when somebody comes out or how they come out, right? It's such a personal thing. And, especially in the world of Star Trek, Una probably didn't want La'an to be implicated, because if she knew and didn't report it, then, she could be court-martialed or whatever. So,
right, because Pike knew first of all.
so it's not just, that you don't get to determine how or when or why somebody comes out to you specifically, but also in that Star Trek world, Una was protecting her by not revealing that information. I love the complicated layers of things in this world.
Yeah. I think that we see a lot of them in Strange New Worlds, in relationships, don't we? And that makes part of the fun and wonder of it. I know we talked a lot about, kind of that duty versus identity with Una, and that we see that in those 2 key episodes for her. But do you think the Illyrian storyline works as an allegory for, immigration and queerness and, all the other marginalized experiences? And I know you said that maybe we don't get to see enough of this in our storytelling, but how do we see opportunities to push that forward so that we do make it more clear in our storytelling?
I'm not sure how to make it more clear in the storytelling, again, because there's so many things going on behind the scenes that we don't have, access to or even know about. I have to believe that people that are working on Star Trek are doing their best to push it as far as they can, because that's what Star Trek is. But, there's real world constraints that we have to deal with, and those are really hard, and a lot of them suck. And are why we can't have nice things. So it's tough. I mean, I do feel the Illyrians very much are. You can see really strong allegories for immigrants and xenophobia, and obviously there's the very, very strong and I believe intentional trans allegory of it, and even queer people outside of trans people can get see a lot of themselves in it, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to see somewhere down the line in Star Trek a resolution to the whole genetically modified people being banned. See a story that deals with what did the Federation eventually do about this? We know 100 years later with Bashir, it was still just as bad. So when did it change? Why did it change? How did it change? I would love to explore that. I would like to think that it eventually did. By the time we're in, late Discovery and the upcoming Starfleet Academy, maybe we'll get a story about that, and that would be really cool.
I think, it would have had to happen somewhere in there.
I would hope.
Because, we know with Discovery, there were, augmented humans and things. Maybe that
Were there genetically modified? I don't think there were.
Ever clear on that point?
Yeah. There were cybernetically modified people.
But now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, we might have something to pitch. Hey.
Take note of that, because we need that. We need
Write that down.
Speaking
I would
of
like to see. I would like to see more of the Illyrians, though, too, because basically Una has had to reject her entire Illyrian heritage.
That's true. Seeing her now being able to be open about it, being able to show more of what their life is like.
Does she? Is she? They talked about how their Illyrian. I think they called them rituals in secret. Whatever their practices were, all of these things that she could not do.
Yeah.
And I would like to see an exploration of that.
That would be really good, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she's using Starfleet in a way to kind of protect that side of her, isn't she? This is who she's going to present and be and blend into that society, right? So yeah, it would be great to see more of who she is, right? That's what we want.
Her heritage and feeling separate from it.
Yeah. I mean, we had Chakotay, and he got to openly do whatever it was he did, right? I mean, like
openly get it all wrong because of the consultants.
Yeah.
Right.
Consultant.
The idea was there, at least. The idea
they did try.
They did try. They did. Yeah. So they can do that. We know that they can. They're capable, and we're much more aware of who's consulting these days. So at least I hope
that's true.
You brought up the genetic modification part, and I wonder what real world parallels do you see in Starfleet's stance on genetic modification?
Oh, it's like a direct parallel to so much of what you see in politics now, right? With the banning of trans healthcare and, people saying that we are not the gender that we say we are and that you can't change your sex, which is not true. Guess what hormones do? But it's a very direct parallel to even this sort of biological essentialism, right? That you can't, you can't change the way you were born. That's who you have to be forever. And that's the Illyrians' whole cultural practice is not what we do, right? And so their way of life is different. And so, it's like directly so much of what we're seeing with conservative politicians these days.
It's the same, trying to put everything in a box. There's only A or B. It's black and white in terms of gender, even biology. Complete erasure of intersex people who they do exist.
Yes, they do.
And just saying, well, there's not that many of them is not a coherent argument. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
All of these things, humans are on a spectrum. We are all a little bit of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it does not serve anyone to put everyone in the same box.
Well, it serves the people in power.
That's true.
That's why they do it.
That's true.
But that's the only people it serves.
Yes. Not the rest of us existing. Yeah. We just want to live.
Right. Just let us be. That's all there is to it. I do think that it's interesting that kind of Starfleet does have that black or white, A or B approach to genetically modified. Even we saw it in the holograms with, the doctor from Voyager, fighting for rights of those folks. So, I mean, it seems like Starfleet very much so puts up a wall and says, nope, just this does not exist in our world. And I think I like that stark approach that they give Starfleet in this, simply because it feels very real in our world. People see things as this or that rather than a blend of all things. And I like that they push Starfleet's boundaries a little bit and gets them to see why that approach is wrong. I wish that more people would get that message. Truly.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of it, right? It can maybe show us a way forward. Hey, yes, look what Starfleet did. You could do that too with trans people. And other marginalized groups, you could treat them as humans. Say, you know what? Maybe we have been wrong about the way we've treated you. So maybe
we can hope, right?
It'll probably be a while, but hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, yes, all the fingers crossed on that, all of them. I think that it's really foundational to Trek to push that idea, isn't
Absolutely.
it? Whether it's about, race or immigration or gender and identification, all of it. So yay, Trek. That's why we keep coming back to it.
Exactly. That hope that we can all be better.
Yes. You're all important.
Yes.
There's no type of person that should be thrown under the bus. We are all together. We are all in this together.
Yeah.
All of us, really, truly. I wanted to talk a little bit about women in leadership in Trek, because we've not had a lot of it, but we were getting more of it. But I wonder what makes Una's leadership style different from other Trek female officers, Janeway or even Kira from Deep Space Nine, and obviously Burnham from Disco. So what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like Una kind of fits, I see like Janeway and Kira on one end and Burnham on the other. And I feel like Una's kind of right in the middle, right? Because
Janeway and Kira on one end, I'm fascinated.
Well, I think because they're both more, I don't know what the word is. They're, what is the word? There's something that both of them have in their leadership style where they are very, I can't think of the word. but they're like, they have this confidence, and Una has confidence, and Burnham has confidence. But like Burnham is very open. She's very warm. I think she's more motherly than the others. Not that she's trying to be, but
she gets there eventually.
Yeah, well, she obviously doesn't start there. That's her arc, right? But she becomes, it's all about emotion and heart with her. And you know, what are you feeling? What do we feel is the right thing to do? And that's why I love her and Discovery so much. But I feel like Janeway and Kira approach things more analytically than Burnham. Burnham like leads with her heart, and I feel like Janeway and Kira lead with their goal or their determination, or you know what I mean? I feel like they approach things more from, this is how we're going to solve the problem, and that's what we're going to do. And Burnham's like, well, how do we feel about that though? Is that really, you know, not that like Janeway and Kira don't think things over and weigh all angles, because I feel like they do. They're both very good leaders, but I feel like they're more like, well, they come to their decision more analytically.
I don't know. I feel like
Burnham
Kira
does.
and Janeway are more like, once they're convinced this is the right thing to do, that's a thing they'll do, even if it's not necessarily what Starfleet would want them to do.
Right.
All right, I guess I could see that.
Right, and I feel like Una sort of fits between the two of them, right? She's
this
like,
is just how it is in our home all the time.
I'm here for it. I want to hear all about
constant nerdy Star Trek discussions. But yeah, I feel like Una is this nice blend of both of them, because she considers the heart, the feelings, but she's also very analytical in the way she approaches things, and the Starfleet rule book. And
yeah, so, I love her by the bookness.
I feel like she has this sort of really nice marriage between the two different leadership styles.
Okay.
That's my approach.
I will accept that.
Thank you.
That's
So it's a blend of strength and restraint.
Yes.
For her. Yeah.
I think so. She's got a really good balance of the two.
Yeah, I think so too. When we talked a little bit about found family, and you know, that's kind of foundational to Star Trek and in all of our forums that we get it. But how does Una protect or nurture her crew?
Well, I think the protectiveness came from her hiding her background. Because she knew it would not be safe for them to know.
And you think that played into other ways that she protected them?
Yeah, because I think, like I said before, she shares things when it's relevant, and she's not going to just volunteer stuff out of nowhere.
Right.
There's always a reason for her communications. So she's very thoughtful in that way. And so I think she would probably be the first one to, like, when she tells the captain, you're doing this thing and it's not Starfleet, like, I want to implicate as few people as possible. I think she would be that way.
Yeah.
Or make sure everyone has made the decision that, you know, this is wrong and we're doing it anyway.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great point, because I think it does tie in that she knows, like, if you violate certain rules and are caught, she's all too aware of what could happen.
Yeah.
And so I think probably makes her extra protective of them and not wanting them to be put in the situation that she has lived through for, like they say, like, what, 20 years, right? Yeah. She had to hide who she was or risk the consequences. And so
I'm sure that definitely plays into her knowing every rule in the rule book.
Yes, right? And I think it plays into why she's kind of sometimes offering that, like that reminder, these are the rules. So I just want you to have a heads up to know where you're headed, what path you're on. You know, she's, as you said, she's done that with Pike. She's done that with all of the bridge crew at some point in time in this series. So it is, I think protection and nurturing go hand in hand with her, because she's always very aware of everyone and the path they're on. And I don't know that we always saw that from all of our number one people in that co-seat. I like it. I want to talk a little bit about writing and wondering how you feel, have the writers really expanded her beyond being the perfect officer into more of a human character? Like, is she more relatable, I guess? Maybe that's what I'm saying.
I think she absolutely is now than she was before. But again, yeah, like you were saying, I would love to see them go further. I don't want that to be the end. I would love to see more about their culture, or how she balances trying to get back into her culture's traditions, while maybe some of the crew are still, like some of the subordinates might still be like, that's weird, or does she have to hide it from that ensign down in the science lab who is not all up with
that's
it,
interesting. Yeah, like would other people be prejudiced against her?
Right. Like the bridge crew that she works with all the time, very loyal, they stand by her, but the people, like the lower deckers on the ship that don't interact with her that much, maybe, what is her interaction with them like now that this is a very public thing that she's, Illyrian.
And at some point, is there a problem, ensign?
Right?
Yeah.
I would not want to have that conversation with her. That would not be.
No. It's very intimidating.
There would be a look, and I think we'd just be like, nope, we're good. Everything's good. I often think about too, in Voyager, there's a few scenes early on in its first season where the doctor, who's trying to figure out his role, right, and suddenly being turned up and on and as the lead medical professional, but there's one of the crew members that keeps coming in but refuses to speak to him. He talks to Kes because to him the doctor is not it's a thing. He's a thing and not a existence or a person in a way. And so
I really love those explorations with Kes and the doctor.
Yeah.
So great.
Yes.
So great.
It's kind of the heart of a lot of those early episodes in Voyager, isn't it? But I do wonder, like, I sometimes think like there was we were touching on things there in those Voyager episodes and scenes in the writing. Absolutely. And I like you said, I wish they would explore more of Una's Illyrian side and let us a little bit more into her now about that. So cool.
I mean, she's like super strong. So someone's like, hey, Una, I want to rearrange my quarters. Could you come over and move a couple couches for me?
Can you lift my bed and put it over here?
That would be super cool.
They got transporters. They can transport the bed across the room.
Oh, but maybe they just want to see to pick up heavy things.
I would want to see her pick up heavy things.
Exactly.
That would be pretty hot. I'd be like, so cool. Una, can you lift this for me, please?
Pick it up for a minute.
Can you show off your biceps while you do?
Oh, I dropped this. Can you pick that up? Is that what it is? You bring up an interesting thing I was thinking about earlier this last week, and I think that sometimes in Star Trek, maybe all the time in Star Trek, we'll get these characters that do have unique abilities. We got Una, who we know has got the strength thing and all these things that come with being Illyrian. Even with 7 of 9, she's still part Borg, and yet we don't see a lot of those skills utilized in the writing. I feel like at Picard, it just ignored that she, had that Borg side altogether at times. But I wonder, why do you think that happens? That we set up these characters with these unique abilities, and then it doesn't always get utilized.
It's weird because it's something that happens even outside of Star Trek. Like, you see this a lot in like a lot of like superhero media where like there will suddenly be a problem and they're like, oh no, we can't solve this. And I'm like, yes, you forgot that the Flash is really fast. He can solve this, no problem.
God, Superman can see right through that.
Right.
Yeah. So it feels like
it happens.
Like sometimes you're thinking about them as people, which you should. And so maybe you forget some of the sci-fi superlatives that go along with them. And so, yeah, I think because it's written by humans, and sometimes we all just forget. Like, oh, oops.
But I feel like we've seen it in comics so much.
So much. It happens all the time.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are moments where, in Strange New Worlds, even like, well, she's so strong, she could have solved this just that fast,
Right.
But it happins.
It does.
What are you gonna do?
There's a lot to keep track of. I get it.
Exactly.
There is a lot to keep track of, and I respect that. And whether it's in the superhero realm or Star Trek or any of our galactic universes, there's a lot to keep up with. And that's a testament to the world building too, though, isn't it? Like, that there is so much to put out there.
Yeah, it's actually something that we dealt with a lot on writing the Voyager comic, because you have to, like, there's a whole gigantic Star Trek universe, and thankfully there's like a dedicated person who reads the scripts and is like, wait a minute, you can't do this because of this other thing in the universe that we didn't know about. So it's really hard to,
or even it's like,
track
since that nacelle is damaged, that's going to affect warp. Like, it's okay. They're not going to warp.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, there's all these, there's so many little things you have to remember, and it's really hard.
Although I will say sometimes I bet the problem is a character swap, which we've had happen several times, where you pitch a story and then they're like, well, we don't want you to use this character because X, Y, and Z. So how about somebody else?
Well, you also run into that on the show where not every character can appear in every episode, sometimes for budgetary reasons. Right.
Oh,
and
sure.
So that changes,
contract reasons.
That changes your story, and you have to use a different character and then you maybe forget that they have a power that would have fixed this whole problem. So it just happens. It's part of the process.
Yeah, we definitely had like full like comic pitches where half the characters were changed. Like,
oh wow, yeah.
So, yeah.
It happens.
It happens.
Flexibility. That's what it's all about then, right?
It
like
is.
just
humans making art is going to be messy art because we're messy humans. That's what you get.
We are messy.
We so much are.
Especially the creatives. We creatives are.
Oh, yeah.
Woo, we can be a hot mess, but it's all for good. It's all for good.
Yes. We put our mess powers to work and put it into the characters we create.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you were going to be in the writer's room for Strange New Worlds,
we should be so blessed.
The dream.
the dream. What story would you give Una next season?
I would love to see a story with her, like outside of what we said, like exploring her culture and her reconnecting with it. But I would love to see a story with her trying to push Starfleet and the Federation forward on their stance on genetically engineered people and treating them as people and not as a problem, not holding an entire category of people responsible for one bad genetically engineered person's actions in the past. So I would love to see an exploration of her trying to pay it forward. She got what she needed, and that's wonderful and great, but now she wants to help others who are like her, and I would love to see that. What about you?
Nope, I can't do it.
You have no story you'd like to see with her?
No, although like I do really want to like explore her looking at, Illyrian practices and
while lifting heavy things.
I think that's a whole episode at least that, right?
In a tank top, maybe when she's a little sweaty.
I mean, it would be interesting though, like to have her, how the crew reacts to her now.
Yeah.
How other people say, well, you're Illyrian, what do you think? Or, like, or even treating her like a stand-in for all marginalized people or something like that. I could see that being a thing.
Sure.
It would be interesting to see her explore that kind of like through like a day in the life with Una, right? Kind of see her going through her daily routines and how she sees things from her perspective. That could be fun. We've done that a few times in Trek before, but
yeah, Next Generation had that. What was it, Data's Day episode?
Yeah.
What is life like for a regular day, like for this positronic?
Yeah.
So
I guess it's those episodes that we don't in these days have enough episodes to have episodes that are fun.
Yeah, the short episode orders cut down on a lot of episodes like that.
Yeah, exploring a character and having fun.
Yeah,
right. Just I think we get a lot of character development that is insinuated in these shorter seasons, right? I mean, we get 2 or 3 lines that tell us that there's been progression in whatever, a relationship or, whatever thing they're doing. And we have to kind of take that. That used to be an episode, right? That used to be
exactly. These short episode orders they really hamper what you can do in the stories you can tell because you don't have that space to explore and let it breathe as much.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big proponent. I would like to see 12 to 15 episodes. I know it's just a little bit more, but I feel like you could get 3 good kind of acts out of a season and maybe a little bit more character building or exploration.
That would be great, but I'm all for going back to the 22 to 24.
Well,
I know they were brutal, like production-wise, but come on, you got to spend so much time with these characters you love.
I will say, though, Strange New Worlds has had more fun, interesting episodes.
Right?
You know, that seem fun.
They lean more into the fun, goofy side of Trek than a lot of other shows have.
Right, and Trek has always had that.
Yes.
So the people acting like that's not Trek.
Every Trek show has had goofy, ridiculous episodes.
Right.
And I love them.
And I'm glad they've been able to do that.
Yes. I like that they do that, but yet still carry these serious storylines, whether it's an overarching theme throughout, 2 or 3 episodes, or something like with the Gorn that carried across each season. They can still have the complete musical episode and tell us stories, and we get character development and a little Klingon pop at the same time. Great. I mean, even this season we've had, the birth of the holodeck and going back to a kitschy tongue-in-cheek stab at the TOS era of sci-fi. And I think it's just fun, but still a lot of moving forward in the Trek universe at the same time. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I do think what, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Strange New Worlds does probably better than the other modern Treks outside of Lower Deck, which obviously is meant to be goofy, but it marries, like, you have these really dramatic, impactful episodes like Ad Astra per Aspera, and then you have a musical episode, right? It can be a variety of things, and I feel like its tone shifts more within its own show than most of the others did. Like, you never saw a goofy, fun episode in that like first season of Discovery or Picard, which were so like dark and almost cynical. And so I like that it's brightened things back up, and it keeps a mixture of things is really good.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think then Una's legacy with Trek will stand alongside the Janeways and the Kiras and the Burnhams? I mean, we know that she's going to be the poster child, right? So she's definitely a Starfleet fan.
It's hard to know, because I think, again, the impact of these characters in these new shows is harder to see on the full breadth of Trek, because we see them so much less. Like, even in 5 seasons of Discovery, right, with Burnham, we only got to be with her for like something like 50 episodes. Right. Whereas, like with Next Gen, what do they hit, like 150 or something like that? And so it's like you're getting a third as much time to be with these characters. And so you don't get quite as attached to them. So with Una and all of these modern characters, I hope that they will have the kind of lasting legacy within Trek that they deserve. But I'm worried that, entertainment is so fractured now. And
now the Paramount merger,
and now with the new merger with Skydance, who knows what's going to happen?
We have no idea what's going to happen with
that.
Seems to be the resounding sentiment that everybody's kind of like, I don't know, right? Here we are.
So I hope so. I think she should stand. I think Una and Burnham and should stand alongside Janeway and Seven and Dax and Kira and Uhura. But I think it's going to take time to find out if they have that same lasting power, just because we've seen so much less of them.
Yeah. It's interesting. I always think about, and during Picard, so Michelle Hurt's character, Raffi, Musiker, there were 30 episodes of Picard, and her character was in 28 of those episodes, which was great. That's for a, not starting off as a brand new character. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't know this character before. And I'm like, wow, that we're asking a lot of these characters to kind of hold their place in Trek history when we only get them for literally almost the length of a season from the 90s, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's something. From a fan perspective, what's a lesson that we can take away from Una's story?
From a fan perspective. What I take from her, I think, is just that it's okay to believe that things can get better, that things should get better, that you can work for things to get better and push things forward, to not just abandon, like I see this especially in a lot of trans people nowadays. It's so hard, right, for us with all of the terrible news coming out every day. And some people just want to give up. They're like, things will never get better. Our society will never get better. They're going to hate us forever. And I feel like Una reminds me that that's not true, that there are good people out there that will fight for you and stand with you. Like way too many people voted to take my rights away in this past election, but just as many people voted to protect them, right? There's 70 million people out there who said everybody should be treated fairly and equally. And that's not nothing, right? That's huge. And so I think it's important that she reminds us that there are things worth fighting for, and they can be fought for, and there are others who will join you in that fight.
That's really nice.
Thank you. What do you take from Una as a fan?
I think Una's very much like, you can't fix everything, but what can you fix? And then do that. And also,
those things are worth doing even if you can't fix everything.
Right.
You can make things a little better.
And also, I feel she's also in that interesting middle way. Like, you don't have to be all of one thing. You don't have to be all analytical and no emotion, or all emotion and no analytical. You can do both things. You can do whatever you want. That it's empowering that, fine, you want to learn something? Learn it. You want to do something? Do it. Do what you can do, and don't focus on everything you can't do.
Positivity and hope.
Yes. Exactly.
Right? She delivers that's for sure.
She does.
And we need more of that now more than ever. So
do we ever?
More Una then. That's what we need. More Una.
Yep.
I've enjoyed this conversation thoroughly because I think Una Chinriley is a fascinating character. I think she definitely fits up there with the pillars of women in Trek who have come before her, and definitely I think she does Majel Barrett's hope for the character quite proud. But before we go, tell people about what you're doing, what's new, what's coming up with the two of you, and I mean, I know we've got the Voyager comic series that's coming out, which I may be just a little bit excited about as a Voyager fan. So, and I know I'm not alone in that. So thank you for your contribution to that. I haven't even read it yet, but I'm already going to thank you for that. So, but tell people what's going on. Oh, it won't.
Yeah. So we're writing it's a 5-issue limited series, Voyager Homecoming. It picks up right where the finale leaves off. So that starts in September 3rd, and then will run for 5 months. And it's we watching Voyager, you fall in love with the characters, right? And it was one of the long ones. You got to spend 7 years with these characters, right? Almost 150 episodes, and then they're all, for that entire time, they're trying to get back to the people they love, and then you don't get to see them get back to the people they love, and that was like broke our hearts a little bit. And then, so we're going to give them that, but they're not going to get it right away. So, because it's Voyager, nothing goes the way it's supposed to, ever. Everything, there's always problems. Everything always goes wrong with Voyager. So things are going to go wrong, and there's going to be some problems, but they're going to get there. And so it's been like an actual honor to get to tell that story, to bring them back home and give them that. So, and hopefully give the fans that. It's tough because, it's been 30 years. Right. And every fan has their own idea in their head of how that went and what those reunions were like, and we can't live up to all those. So it's very intimidating, but we're doing our best. So we've got that coming, and we just wrote an episode of an animated show that we're not allowed to talk about yet. And animation is very slow, so that'll probably be out in like 2 years. And we have a YA queer trans rom-com graphic novel that is coming out from Mad Cave. It should be out 2026. I'm thinking the art's about halfway done. And we have another graphic novel that we're not allowed to talk about. That'll be out in 2027 that the art is in progress for. And we wrote and directed a short film that is out to festivals now. It's a trans sci-fi story about love and connection and hope. So,
and it was just accepted to the Long Beach Q Film Fest.
Yes, where it will be playing September 6th, I believe. And
they don't have tickets up yet, so
festivals run all year round, though. So we're hoping to get into a lot more around the country and around the world. It's called Long Away. So if you follow us on social media or go to our website at birdguest.com, we will post things about it when it is available, and we would love for you to go see it.
Absolutely. Well, it's exciting. I'm glad you're both continuing to write and put your stamp on things in this creative world, because we desperately need more voices like yours. So thank you, and carry on, please, by all means.
We're trying.
Good. All right. Well, I want to give a huge thank to both Tilly and Susan Bridges for joining me today and sharing their insights, passion, and Trek wisdom. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you subscribe to Clonestar Podcast and follow us on social media so you don't miss the rest of our Women of Strange New World series. We've got more incredible characters to explore and more of the bold, inspiring women who keep the Enterprise flying. And don't forget to check out Tilly and Susan's upcoming Star Trek Voyager Homecoming comic, as well as Tilly's Trans Tuesdays. Until next time, thanks for joining us, and live long, lead boldly, and never be afraid to take the chair when the moment calls for it.